What are the strangest military units in history? Today, let's give them some awards. First, the award for best technology. Fire is a powerful force mastered by humans. It was used in warfare from early on. But what if there was a fire that could burn on water? How would that change things? Today's best technology award goes to the Byzantine Empire's Greek fire throwers. Greek fire was a chemical incendiary weapon used by the Byzantine Empire from the 7th to the 14th century. Unlike the flamethrower units in the game, Medieval II, Total War. Historically, Byzantine, Greek fire was mainly a naval weapon. Soldiers would usually throw pots of Greek fire or use flamethrowing tubes mounted on the ship's bow. Large bellows would project the Greek fire through a siphon. It's said that Greek fire could burn on water, so if it ignited an enemy fleet, the results were devastating. Around 672 AD, the Arabs attacked Constantinople. Greek fire was crucial in defeating the Arab fleet. It repelled the enemy's first and second sieges. Anna Komnene recorded that in 1099, the Byzantines used Greek fire in a naval battle against the Pisans. They used Greek fire devices. The formula for Greek fire was a closely guarded state secret. Historians speculate it was a mix of pine resin, naphtha, quicklime, calcium phosphate, sulfur, or saltpeter. Byzantine rivals tried to replicate this technology. In 827, the Arabs captured at least one complete fireship. Around 812, the Bulgarians captured several siphons and much of the apparatus. Eventually, the Arabs also captured the technology and passed it down in their records. Next, the award for best courage. In war, courage is an essential quality for a soldier. Sometimes, courage breaks its limits and becomes a rage. The award for best courage goes to the Scandinavian Berserkers. Many are familiar with the term berserker. This word comes from Old Norse and likely means bear shirt, for one who wears a bear's skin. Actually, besides the familiar bear berserkers, there were two other types. The Norse were hunters, and their prey inspired their worship customs. Bears, wolves, and wild boars were three key examples. Therefore, berserkers wearing bear, wolf, and boar skins. The bear warriors, wolf warriors, and boar warriors held great symbolic meaning for the Norse. Many artifacts and Old Norse texts confirm the existence of berserkers. The Karlovy runestone from Västergötland, Sweden, depicts an image of a bear warrior. The earliest written record of berserkers is the Haraldskvugi, a poem praising King Harald Fairhair. Icelandic historian and poet Snorri Sturluson wrote that King Harald Fairhair used berserkers as shock troops to achieve many victories. Later Norse kings also included berserkers in their personal guard, granting them a high status. It's said that in battle, they would enter a frenzied state, howling like beasts, foaming at the mouth, and gnawing on their shields. In this state, they were immune to steel and fire, and would slaughter their enemies. When the frenzy faded, they would become weak and docile. Some legends even claim they could ritually shapeshift into bears, wolves, and boars. Some scholars believe berserkers would, before battle, use mushrooms or other herbs, or drink large amounts of alcohol to enter their frenzied state. This theory was supported by a 1977 discovery near Fjerkjær, Denmark. They found henbane seeds, which can produce similar effects. This discovery helps support the theory. In a warrior's grave, berserkers had strong pagan overtones, so as Scandinavia became Christianized, they gradually disappeared. By the 12th century, berserkers had essentially vanished from armies. However, their centuries of selfless, frenzied fighting make them worthy of today's award for best courage. Next, the award for best ingenuity. Camel cavalry is already an unusual unit, but what's even more unusual is mounting catapults on those camels. The best ingenuity award goes to the Western Shia's Poxi Army. The Poxi Army was a special unit of the Western Xia during the Northern Song period. They used tall Bactrian camels as mounts. On the camels' backs, they installed small catapults called whirlwind cannons. These launched fist-sized stones. The Poxi Army was small in number, with only about 200 riders, but the stones they launched were highly lethal to individual soldiers, no matter the type of armor. Under a concentrated barrage from the Poxi Army, it was rendered useless. Also, compared to standard catapults, the camels gave the Poxi Army excellent mobility. The history of song records the Poxi Army had 200 men. Their whirlwind cannons were mounted on the camels' backs, and when they fired stones, it was like a torrent. However, this unit's psychological impact was greater than its practical effect. Its small numbers and the fact it was never widely adopted prove this point. But in terms of creativity, few other military units can compare. Next, I will reveal the Best Weapon Award. This winner comes from the eastern land of China. They are the Langxian soldiers of the Ming Dynasty's Qijia army. The most unique aspect of this unit was their weapon, the Langxian. The Langxian was like a long, multi-branched tree limb. It was made from Mao bamboo, with its natural branches left intact. The top was fitted with a spearhead, and barbs were set into the forks. The Langxian weighed about 3.5 kilograms and was around 5 meters long. In his military manual, General Qi Jiguang wrote that the Langxian uses the top of a large Mao bamboo, keeping the branches on all four sides. Its many branches are sharpened. The entire weapon is over 5 meters long. It can shield the user's entire body. Sword blades and spear thrusts cannot get through it. The ancients were bold to use this weapon, making it a powerful tool in the south. Clearly, this was a long weapon designed to fight Wokou pirates. It could easily neutralize the Wokou's long swords. Because the Langxian was large and heavy, it could also be used as a barricade to obstruct enemy cavalry. Furthermore, the Langxian's unique appearance could conceal the soldier's body, which boosted morale and reduced the fear of the front-line troops. Langxian soldiers had to be strong and robust. Soldiers using this weapon did not form their own separate units. Instead, they were mixed into the front ranks of the army. In battle, Langxian soldiers were placed at the front, coordinating with other troops in the Mandarin Duck formation. Sometimes they required shield bearers for extra cover. However, the Mandarin Duck formation was ultimately too complex. It required precise coordination and brilliant commanders, so it was never widely adopted. As a result, the Langxian soldiers were a flash in the pan. With the Best Weapon awarded, it's time for the Best Armor Award. This winner's armor has a quaint and unique look. It comes from the late 15th century BC Mycenaean civilization. They are the Mycenaean soldiers in Dendra-style panoply. In May 1960, archaeologists in Dendra, Greece, discovered this early suit of bronze armor. This heavy-looking armor is made of 15 separate bronze plates, held together with leather straps. It covers the warrior from neck to knees. This full-body armor was made of hammered bronze sheets, offering extensive coverage. When the warrior raised his arms, it even protected his armpits. The armor also had a deep neck guard that protected the neck and chin well. Its overall shape looks like a thick tube or an apron worn on the body, making it look bulky and quaint. However, for such an ancient era, to be equipped with such full-body armor was no small feat. The helmet discovered with the Dendra panoply was a boar's tusk helmet. It was made from pieces of boar's tusk, arranged on a leather base, and padded with felt. A description of this helmet appears in Book 10 of Homer's epic, the Iliad. A fully armed Odysseus wore such a helmet while preparing for a night raid on the Trojans. This helmet was not as protective as a metal one. Therefore, it likely served as a status symbol. After all, to make one helmet, you would need to kill 40 to 50 boars. This shows that such heavy armor could only be worn by high-ranking warriors. Next, we'll present the Best Vehicle Award. If camels weren't a strange enough mount, the appearance of war elephants was surely enough to terrify the enemy. Generally, when we think of armies using war elephants, we imagine Eastern or North African civilizations, such as India or the Arab world. Actually, ancient Greece, Rome, and the armies of Alexander's empire also used war elephants. Of course, unlike horses and other animals, domesticated over many centuries, war elephants were captured from the wild and then trained for the battlefield. Therefore, a basic requirement for using war elephants was to be near their native habitat. So it's logical that war elephants are more famous in civilizations like India and Carthage. This is perfectly understandable. War elephants of that era came from two main sources: African elephants and Asian elephants, primarily the Indian elephant. Many records of war elephants suggest that Indian elephants were superior in size and strength to African elephants. It was also said African elephants feared Indian elephants. At the Battle of Raphia in 17 BC, in the army of Egypt's Ptolemy IV, the African forest elephants refused to fight the Indian elephants of Antiochus, which supports these claims. But based on our knowledge, African elephants should be larger than Indian elephants. Actually, the African elephant in these texts refers to the African forest elephant. They are indeed smaller than Indian elephants. The African bush elephant, however, is larger than the Indian elephant. During training, the elephant's diet was entirely the mahout's responsibility. Because the mahout has the deepest bond with the elephant, they are responsible for controlling the elephant during marches and battles using an elephant goad. Some elephants would even rescue their injured mahouts from the battlefield. But elephants are still tamed wild animals. Their tempers can be unpredictable. There were many cases of war elephants rampaging and harming their own mahouts. As early as 1000 BC, India was already using war elephants. In most early texts or paintings, the described war elephants are not what we might imagine, carrying wooden fighting towers on their backs. Instead, riders sat directly on large blankets on the elephant's back. Generally, early war elephants carried for soldiers. Besides the mahout who acted as the driver, there was also a rider near the tail. The soldiers in the middle were mainly equipped with bows and rarely used javelins or long spears. A few war elephants were also armored. Up until the early Middle Ages, there are still no records of war elephants using fighting towers. Beginning in the 10th century, the number of soldiers carried increased to between 2 and 14. Besides the ranged soldiers on the elephant's back, as the largest land animal, war elephants could use their massive bodies to trample and kill the enemy. Sometimes, sharp blades or flails were attached to the elephant's trunk and tusks to destroy enemies. These blades were often coated with poison to increase their lethality. Elephants cannot trot or run, but they can move at speeds up to 16 kilometers per hour and easily cross various terrains. They have strong off-road capability. Elephants can live for 70 to 80 years. They began service at age 20, and their prime fighting age was around 40. Therefore, raising a war elephant required a massive investment of time. In summary, as non-domesticated animals, with a complex and lengthy training process, war elephants could not be used on a large scale across different regions. Their use was limited to areas near their habitats. Saladin, which recorded an Arab version of Greek fire, called naft. It was also based on naphtha, with sulfur and various resins added. Later research suggests that this formula was significantly different from Byzantine Greek fire, so they are not considered the same thing. Finally, we will present the Best Decoration Award. Can you guess who the winner is? As everyone would expect, they are the ones who wore magnificent wings on their backs, the Polish winged hussars. The Polish winged hussars were active from the early 16th to the 18th century. Their name in Polish is simply hussars. The term hussar refers to a type of cavalry that are a war hammer and a cavalry pick. In 1503, the Polish Parliament issued a decree to form the first hussar unit. At that time, they did not yet have the magnificent wings. The true winged hussars were established by the Polish king and Grand Duke of Lithuania. Stunned hussars were recruited from the nobility. Each hussar was accompanied by several retainers and formed companies similar to Western European lancer units. Looking at the cavalry of that era, it's hard to objectively compare their combat effectiveness, but in terms of appearance, very few cavalry units could match the splendor of the Polish winged hussars, especially that pair of wings on their backs. Therefore, awarding them the Best Decoration Award is well deserved. Alright, of the units mentioned, some were pieced together from scant clues in historical texts. Others were veteran forces that dominated the battlefield for centuries. But without exception, compared to conventional spearmen, cavalry, and archers, they all had their own unique qualities. In the future, I will introduce each of them in more detail if I have the chance. So, do these curious examples give you any strange new inspiration? What kind of brand new military unit would you design for His Majesty the King? I look forward to your fantastic ideas. See you next time.